here we are behind the AV equipment, behind the receiver. This is a wall where we're going to drop the wire down. This is below the TV. This is below the front left speaker. Our wire is going to come down here. Now, what we need to do is we're going to find out where our studs are in this area first. Stud finder. We got one stud right there. It looks like I'm going to cut to the right of this stud, but I'm not just going to cut a random hole anywhere in this wall. Make it look nice. Take your time. As you can see, whoever put in this cable outlet, that's just really sloppy. They should have matched the height of the electrical outlets to make it look nice and clean. Everything looks nice and straight. This dude obviously didn't care what he's doing. That's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches higher than the electrical outlets. Looks really sloppy. We're going to match the electrical outlets. We're going to cut a hole, and this is what we're cutting in. This is called, they call this an old work box, or they call it I call them cut-in mud rings. What's going to happen? We're going to cut this thing in the wall. The wire's going to come out, and our faceplate screws to the front of this guy. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So I'm going to take and I'm going to measure to the top of the outlet. The top of the electrical outlet is 11.5 inches. That's 11.5 inches to the top of the faceplate. Well, we're not going to cut a hole to the top of the faceplate because the faceplate has to cover this whole thing. So I'm going to cut 1/4 inch below the top of that thing. So this is 11.5. I'm going to cut my box 11.25. That way when I put my ring on there, I put my ring on, I put my faceplate on, everything should come out to 11.5 after all said and done. Okay, so I'm going to measure 11.25 inches. Just right there. That's the top of my box. Do not cut a hole this big. These flaps have to stay in front of the wall. Cut a hole this big right here. Not this, this. Otherwise, if you cut that hole too big, this sucker falls in the wall. Done deal. Now you got to do some craziness to try to get that thing to work. We're going to cut to this. We're going to cut to this here. Okay? Pencil marks. We're going to take our drywall saw. I've got my plastic bag here laid out underneath, ready to catch all my dust. We're going to go ahead and cut this hole out. Okay, we've got our hole cut in the wall. One thing I forgot to mention, when you guys are cutting this hole, never use power tools. Don't get yourself a Sawzall. I know it's going to be faster, but it's really dangerous. There's a lot of things back here that you can cut through. You can cut through electrical, plumbing, sewage, sprinklers, air conditioning ducts. There's tons of things that you can cut through inside the walls, inside your ceilings. It's not a shortcut. You're going to end up costing yourself thousands of dollars to call out a repairman, plus your house might be flooded. It's not worth the trouble. Get yourself a handsaw just like this. Cut your holes out. One thing I forgot to mention is when you're choosing your location and where to put this box, make sure you check the top of the wall too. If there's air conditioning ducts up there, or air conditioning vents, the air conditioning vent will take up that whole stud bay, that whole space in between the studs. It's going to take up that whole thing. So if you cut your hole right below that air conditioning vent, you're done. You just cut a hole in the wall, you can't use it. So make sure you check both sides of the wall, this side of the wall, the other side of the wall, for air conditioning ducts as well. So now that I've got this hole cut, I want to check to see if I have any obstacles. Just because it's an internal wall doesn't mean that there's not going to be stuff in this wall. And on the other side is a shower. Sometimes on shower walls, they can do some funky stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy glow rod. I call these glow rods, some people call them fish rods or fish tools, whatever. I call it a glow rod, and no, it does not glow. I'm going to shove this up the wall, see if I have any obstacles. Looks like this thing goes all the way up. This is 6 foot long, 8 foot ceilings. My glow rod's 6 foot long. If I want to be doubly safe, just to make sure, I can put on an extension. Looks like we're good. So I know that we're going to have a nice clear ceiling all the way up. This is an 8 foot tall ceiling. This is a 6 foot glow rod. It felt like I hit something about a foot down from the top. I'm not sure what that was yet. If it is a problem, I'm going to get a long drill bit and I'll drill through it. But we'll find out. This is a real installation. I'm not exactly sure what I'm getting into just yet, but we're going to work through it together and we'll work through these problems one at a time. After I put my glow rod up the wall, my glow rod is 6 feet long, the ceiling's 8 feet tall. I wanted to find out why my glow rod doesn't go all the way up. I might find that I've got an obstacle about a foot down. So I decided to do a little research to dig in a little bit deeper. Like I said, keep saying, this is a real installation. These are real obstacles. These are real problems that we're running into. So we have to work through them just like you guys at home will have to. And this is just something else we're going to have to deal with. So I did a little more research, walked around the house, took a look to see what's going on. In here in the bathroom, this is the back side of the AV receiver where I cut that hole. The back side where I just put that glow rod up. See this drop lid ceiling? The ceiling is about exactly where my glow rod is hitting. So I know that inside the wall there's some kind of support that's holding the ceiling up, or not holding the ceiling up, but holding the drywall up to kind of frame out this little space here. So I'm not exactly sure how they framed it. I don't know if they framed it and they just put a 2x4 to hold up the drywall and it's an empty space all the way up, and maybe my glow rod was hitting that 2x4 like this, or maybe they turned the 2x4 like that. So there's a plate and my glow rod is hitting that plate right there. If that's the case, I anticipate finding a plate at the top of the wall, a plate at the top of this guy here, and then it should be smooth sailing all the way down. So, like I said before, real installation. We're going to deal with these problems. We're going to find out what's going on. I'm just going to make sure that when I go up into the attic, I'm prepared to deal with this plate and that top plate. Before I actually go up inside the attic, the one thing I hate about being in the attic more than anything else is when you have a guy on the ground that's bumbling around and he's taking his time, because I'm roasting. I might be in a backwards somersault, my leg wrapped around my head, trying to hold myself in some kind of funky position to keep still inside that attic, and you got a guy who's bumbling around down on the floor, doesn't know what he's doing. You can't find the holes, you can't line up. I don't want to mess with that stuff. So before I go in the attic, I try to make sure all my T's are crossed, all my I's are dotted. What I'm going to do is it can be kind of hard to find where you cut your hole in the wall. It can be over here, it can be over here. It's kind of hard to find, and up in the attic you can get lost, you can get disoriented. Now of course we have this speaker right here to mark our location, but we're going to pretend that you didn't. If you didn't have a speaker to mark your location, or you think that you're going to have a hard time finding exactly where to drill down inside the wall, what I use is I like to use this stiff rigid wire right here. I'm going to go up into the ceiling right above the hole that I cut for my wires to come out of the wall behind the receiver. So that looks like it's going to be right about here. Now if I try to put this right up against the wall right here, I'm going to hit a stud. There's 2x4s that run real close right here that hold that drywall up. We don't want to go through that. So I'm going to come off the wall just a couple inches, line myself up at the top of that hole, and I'm going to push that sucker up in there. Now the purpose of doing this is so that when I go up into the attic, I'm going to see this piano wire. I'm going to say, oh okay, my hole is right beneath that. We're going to go up into the attic right now, we're going to take a look, and we're going to get lined up with that hole, get ready to drill our hole. When you're going to drill your hole, take an 18-volt drill up there. Don't try to mess around with a 12-volt drill or 9-volt drill. It ain't going to cut it. You're going to get up there, you're going to get ticked off. Use a corded drill, use an 18-volt drill, rent one if you have to, borrow one from your buddy, buy him a 6-pack of soda. Whatever you got to do, get yourself a nice powerful drill. You don't want to be up there roasting, uncomfortable. Walk all the way over there, find out that your drill's too weak, your battery's dead. Make sure you got a nice charged battery. And here we go.